Today's foggy weather quite accurately symbolizes what is called the fog of war. In this particular case, political fog, legal fog, tactical fog, policy fog. The assassination of Charlie Kirk has brought new matters to light. We can condense this down to two factors. One, Charlie Kirk has brought to light the culmination of other events where the concealed carry pistol is no longer sufficient. There have been other mass shootings outside of pistol range. In a mass shooting at a church in Texas, a man with his AR and only 5 rounds in his hand. The other disturbing trend is the belief that the war is on and it's time to start shooting. To the credit of most of us here in the Second Amendment community, we have exhibited some amazing restraint. I have yet to hear of any retaliatory act of murder openly performed in the name of avenging Charlie Kirk. Some radicals will probably try and interpret other crimes as a right-wing retaliation, but for those of us who know better, murder is murder. Whether it's the name of right-wing politics, left-wing politics, or whatever religious trend that you're on. I've been trying to make a video in response to Charlie Kirk's assassination, and the months have been wary of doing so out of concern for encouraging reckless behavior. While it might sound practical to add a truck gun to your everyday carry, it comes with some legal caveats and legal variables. The current trend has been people practicing for what's called CQB, and for the most part, rightfully so. If you are performing a shooting in self-defense beyond CQB defined as pistol range, or in most cases just across the room range, or at the very most inside the property line of the average suburban home, you are going to have some questions to answer, and you'd better have a good lawyer. Self-defense shootings inside CQB range, inside even stabbing range, have of late been a challenge to defend. You can imagine the legal challenges involved in taking out someone at 100, 200, or even 300 yards. Next, we have the belief that the war is on. What is your definition of war? If we're talking about an all-out shooting war, obviously we're not there yet. If we're talking WROL, rule of law still in effect, you are legally responsible for every bullet that leaves your muzzle. Lawfare has become a weapon of this so-called war. Enemies will try and use the rule of law in their favor. If they are the shooters, they're going to try and explain that my victim deserved it. If they are on the receiving end of a self-defensive shooting, they're going to try and claim that the shooting was not justified. No matter what he was doing, deadly force was not justified. Ask Kyle Rittenhouse. Every war has its rules. In ancient times, armies marched in formations, forming shield walls, phalanxes, squares, and other formations, where each man to his right and left of him would support him. As firearms were introduced, these formations became volleys. As rifles were introduced, volleys had to be dispersed into skirmish lines. As rifles became even more accurate and longer ranged, and the full power rifle cartridge was also used not only in rifles but in belt-fed machine guns, all of a sudden people had to dig trenches, and trench warfare became the order. Then, to bypass the trenches, mechanized warfare involving armor, trucks, and armored transport became the norm. And now we're seeing drone warfare. Every war has its rules. Every war has its paradigm. Shortly after the declaration of war in World War II began as what's called the phony war. There was a state of war, but nobody was shooting at each other until all of a sudden, blitzkrieg. So, for those of us who think we are at war, what are the rules of this war? What is the paradigm of this war? You still have the rule of law, and lawfare is a weapon. So your employment of weapons and tactics needs to be with caution and within the rule of law. So how do we meet this challenge? I will contend that the late Colonel Cooper and his scout rifle concept is the answer, or at least a viable option. When Cooper designed the scout rifle, he didn't just design a rifle, he designed a philosophy. The philosophy of the scout. So, in this conflict we have right now, what appears to be rapidly moving towards Civil War 2.0, the scout philosophy of restraint, awareness, and alertness should be your primary goal. What this is not is a call for these AR people to trade in their quote-unquote poodle shooters for a scout rifle. Far from it. Hardware does not win wars, not hardware alone. And if you're an AR owner, the scout philosophy is still for you. In fact, an AR-15 used in the scouting role, optimized for the scouting role, is referred to as a recce rifle or a reconnaissance rifle. Check on the link below how to set up your AR for the reconnaissance role, recce rifle. The prepper community emphasizes avoiding conflict, staying away from trouble, not running towards it. A Green Beret turned pastor and commune leader preaches, get out of those cities. All this unrest we see, don't be there. Get out of there and become as self-sufficient as possible. His motto is COOHMP, COOHMP, come out of her, my people. Also in keeping with the scouting philosophy, he preaches that if your mailbox is your first line of defense, you have already lost. So, alertness, awareness, being on the lookout is your first line of defense. Evasion and avoidance is your second. Only when all else fails does one actually engage in a fight. With the passing of the late colonel, the torch of the scout rifle concept was picked up by several people. Il-ling Niu, a gun sight instructor herself, hosted the second scout rifle concept And the other big name in the scout rifle community now is Richard Mann in his book, The Scout Rifle Concept. Here, when it comes to awareness and alertness being your primary weapon, is where the scout concept comes into play, where lawfare can be as deadly a weapon as any bullet. A scout is a man trained in the use of ground and cover, movement from cover to cover, rifle marksmanship, map reading, observation, and accurately reporting the results of his observation. This term was also honorific, for obviously a scout was a very high type of soldier, an active, intelligent, trustworthy, courageous, skillful athlete. He acted alone, not as a member of a team. By choice, he did not fight, but he had to be an expert at the hit-and-run art of single combat. By choice, he did not shoot, but if forced to shoot, he shot quickly, carefully, and as little as possible. One round, one hit, then vanish. That was the motto. He did not need an assault rifle, he needed a scout rifle. And if you have an AR-15, you might consider configuring it as a recce rifle. As such, what are your skills? In this legally restricted environment, where rules of deadly force vary from state to state, your skills must allow you to prevail not only in the physical fight, but also in the legal environment. You must be able to keep your pistol holstered and under cover or concealed until the very last minute. That means you need to have the skill to get it out and in use and still prevail physically. Once your pistol is out, you must keep it in a high or low ready position until, again, the very last second, to where deadly force becomes justified. Because if you point that pistol at your adversary a microsecond too early, you will change a justified threat of deadly force to assault. Your rifle must be in the truck under cover until the very last moment. Your skill in getting it out and on target is the difference between winning on the battlefield and losing in the courtroom, or winning both in the battlefield and the courtroom. So what are your skills? Check my earlier video. How hard and how fast do you train? How smart do you train? I address these issues. If you're living in a red state, that's no guarantee. Massad Ayoob and many other defensive shooting consultants who provide expert witnesses for the defense will tell you there is little, if any, difference between red and blue states. Some of the reddest states have been known to declare cut and dried self-defense shootings unjustified and convicted that person of murder. Blue states, surprisingly, have their own acquittal rate. And if you think about it, rightfully so. And you have some criminal with an assault weapon that's banned in that state, and he's taken out by someone with a politically correct revolver, single stack auto, or quote-unquote harmless hunting rifle. That's going to get you points in a blue state. Red state, not so much. So, in summary, we're in a situation where the everyday carry pistol might not be good enough. We're seeing shootings taking place beyond pistol range, 25 yards or greater, and as far as 300 yards. prospect of carrying a truck gun produces more legal complications. There are those who would say that any shooting outside a pistol range would be unjustified. And lawfare is a viable weapon in this Civil War 2.0, or Cold Civil War as someone might call it. And yes, if we are in a civil war, it is a cold civil war. The 2A rifle range is not fully hot yet. If you don't believe that, try it and talk to me from your jail cell. Simply throwing a rifle into your truck is not as simple as you might believe. Most AR people have bought their ARs as a low recoil alternative to a shotgun. They're not equipped, set up, or trained to hit anything beyond across the room range or outside the property line of an average suburban home. Again, throwing your AR into the back of your truck and calling it good is an invitation to trouble. Next, we're going to cover some techniques and skills that would need to be mastered if you decide to have a truck gun for such shootings at distance. See you next video. Like and subscribe.